Earlier this year, Volkswagen announced that they were discontinuing the manual transmission in the GTI and the Golf R, meaning that the Jetta GLI would be the only remaining car in the United States with a 6-speed manual transmission. And well, that is what I have been daily driving this week, the 2025 Volkswagen Jetta GLI, which has been slightly facelifted for the 2025 model year. I figured today we would commute this to downtown Ann Arbor, as it is kind of a city car, a hot compact, if you will, and we'll kind of go through it, we'll evaluate it, we'll see what it means kind of philosophically for the Volkswagen brand being the last manual car in the United States, and well, we'll give you an idea of what it's like to live with one of these. So this is finished in Monument Gray, as it seems like every press car I've been driving lately has been some hue of like a flat primer gray. At least it isn't Nardo gray, it's got a little bit of blue to it, almost kind of like a sky blue, which we're not seeing right now with the grayness of Michigan in November. But I've always liked the GLI, I've always liked the GTI, and the only reason that we still have a manual in the GLI is because this is a US only car. The GTI is, of course, a global product, and well, we always say that Americans can't drive stick, and all the Europeans in my comments always make fun of Americans for not driving manual, but all of you Europeans are the reason that we no longer have the manual GTI, because nobody was buying it. In fact, America made up the majority of the manual sales, and since the GTI is a global product, it didn't make sense for them to continue producing the manual. Luckily though, this car is still around, and I hope it stays around for a while as the enthusiast choice. For 2025, we have a revised front and rear fascia. We said that this car got a facelift, and I think it looks quite nice. I like the strip taillight across the back with the GLI badging on the taillight. I don't love the GLI badging on the doors. I think that looks a little awkward. Kind of reminds me of the old supercharged Cobalt SSs that just had that random SS badge thrown in the middle of the door. And then around front, our lip gloss has moved down to the bumper. Usually that goes across the grille. That is now chrome through our headlights, but at least they have kept the red, and I think it looks quite nice. If they would have gotten rid of that red from the front of the GLI, it would have just looked very awkward. Under the hood is unchanged. We still have a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, 228 horsepower, 258 pound-feet of torque. It's front-wheel drive. This one has a 6-speed manual, though you are also able to get a 7-speed DSG as a no-cost option, and we have a front limited slip differential. So we do have a pretty good performance recipe here, even though the car really doesn't look like much. It is honestly a pretty serious performer. Until you get to the tires, which these are your only choice. This is a set of Hankook Kinergy GT all-season tires in a 225/45 R18 squared setup, and regardless of your wheel choice, these are the only tires you can get, and they do hold this thing back quite a bit. We'll show you that once we're out on the road. Only about 1 or 2 options you can really pick on this car. You can choose your exterior color, and you can also opt for the GLI Black package, which this car does have. Get you the black wheels, black mirror caps, black roof, and that is just about it. You've got a few different exterior colors, but kind of like a lot of cars in this segment, Civic Si, WRX, Elantra N, you can't really choose a lot of things. It kind of just comes one way from the factory. You choose your color, your transmission, and that's about it. Popping open the trunk, we have quite a bit of room back here. I think you could fit a couple sets of golf clubs, but the best thing about the trunk area is that we have a spare tire in this Jetta GLI, something that hilariously you really don't see too much anymore. Even in cars in this segment, they don't all have a spare, so nice to see that under our massive trunk floor. I mean, this is a pretty big usable area back here. Cool. I am actually shivering a little bit. I've spent the week in South Carolina. When I wasn't daily driving this, I spent 2 or 3 days down south a bit where it was a bit warmer, so I've come back here and I've put some more miles on the Jetta GLI, but I've been cold. Luckily though, we have some standard heated options. I am getting a bit ahead of myself. Let's go ahead and pop the hood, show you this 2-liter. Actually, don't think I've opened this hood yet. Okay, there we go. TSI. We don't have hood struts. Is that really where that goes? Look at the flex on that prop rod. Okay. All right, anyways, a really attractive engine cover with a nice silver VW badge on there, and looks pretty straightforward to work on. Lots of room in this engine bay, so a little bit down the road when you're doing your own work on this thing, you won't have a problem. The air box is massive. I think that's 2 liters as well. Look at that thing. Absolutely huge. I think this would definitely benefit from some sort of a cold air intake, free some things up a bit. And luckily, with this being a Volkswagen 2-liter turbo, lots of aftermarket support, you can kind of do your thing with your GTI or GLI. Cool. Let's check out the back seat. We'll step up front, and then we'll take this thing for a drive and commute it to downtown. In the back, you can see kind of a sneak peek of what our front seats are going to look like. This is your only interior choice for the GLI, black and gray leather. And sat behind myself at 5'11", plenty of room, as we see in most of the cars in this segment now. Things have gotten big enough to where you don't really have to worry about taking a couple of passengers with you. But space is kind of where the amenities stop back here. There's really not a whole lot else going on. We don't even have vents back here or a USB port. There's nothing here. The console is just blank black plastic. We do at least have a fold-down armrest with some cup holders, and the passenger seat has a map pocket. But I think that's just about it. One thing I will commend Volkswagen on is that they have at least tried a little bit to match these rear door panels. This has been one thing that I have complained about in the past. And to demonstrate that to you, I'm going to show you both door panels here. So in the older GLIs, everything, older Volkswagen cars, the rear door panels were just molded black plastic. But for the 25 GLI, they've made this piece gray, which makes it a little bit closer. You can see it still isn't up to the same quality that you get on the front door panel, which has this contrast red stitching on this gray trim piece, as well as some padding and red stitching on your armrest. Back here, the whole thing is just kind of the same scratchy plastic, though we do have some slight padding here for you to rest your elbow and a place for you to put another drink. So, okay. It's like always my complaint with Volkswagens is that they don't invest into the rear door panels. I don't know how much more expensive it could be to just match these, but they're getting there, and we'll give them credit for that. And it's not only Volkswagen. Honda is also a culprit of doing this. In fact, Honda doesn't even match their seats. Usually the back seat is completely different, like in the SI and the Type R. Okay, enough about that. Let's get up front and we'll see what this is like. So the GLI is now only available in the Autobahn trim, which means we get a lot of standard features. Power seats with 3 memory settings. They're heated and ventilated. We get a heated steering wheel. And it's really just a nice place to be. These seats feel really nice. These Volkswagen products have started to feel very, very upscale in the last couple of years as far as interior goes, if you ignore the rear door panels, of course, but everything else seems really nice. And the best part about this 25 GLI is that it still retains some of Volkswagen's older design language and infotainment system and climate control panel. Things that aren't the same as the GTI and Golf R is kind of what I'm getting at. Things are actually easy to use. So let's fire it up and we'll show you some of the tech in here. Steering wheel heating is off. Let's change that. Turn the steering wheel heating on, and I'm going to put my heated seat on too because I am a bit chilly. We have a center console, which I'm currently using for my hat, but you can see it is quite deep. You've got a USB-C port there, 2 more USB-C ports to charge phones or to connect wired to your CarPlay or Android Auto. I've got mine connected wirelessly right now to our infotainment screen, which has a physical volume knob, though it does the Volkswagen thing where the power button spins, which means you have to always have it right there. And that's perfect. And this knob over here, you can use as a little scroller to get through your screen if you would like, or obviously this is a touch screen, you can do your thing with it. The actual infotainment itself seems to work quite all right. I haven't really had any problems with it this week. I have had it drop CarPlay once, but I think that was my fault because I got out of the car with my phone in my pocket, got back in, and it freaked the whole thing out. I had to turn the car off, lock it, unlock it, get back in, and then it reconnected. Otherwise, though, it's been completely fine. Quick access here to our Apple CarPlay, and this does not have in-house navigation. So I've just been using Waze this week, or Apple Maps, to get myself places, and I honestly think that's okay. I feel like that's the direction we're going to be seeing a lot of manufacturers go with phone projection being so common. There's really no need for in-house navigation unless you're General Motors, of course, and you're getting rid of CarPlay and Android Auto out of your cars, which I think is very silly, but this makes a lot of sense here in the GLI. Our climate panel is Still haptic touch, but it's separate from the infotainment screen, which means you can adjust it whenever you would like, however you would like, because it's separate. That's what I love so much here. We have a wireless charger to put your phone, wide open space there. You've got some cup holders here, lots of places to put things up here. This is a pretty practical cabin. Our entire dashboard layout has changed for 25, and I think it looks really nice. Nice gray leather with red stitching here for some accenting, some fake stitching on top of the dash to give it the look that it is leather, even though it is not. We have a moonroof, and we have a Beats audio system, which is not very good, but we'll test that out later, and we'll let you all listen for yourselves. Ambient lighting, and that goes along with your colors. You can have a pink gauge cluster, blue, red, yellow, orange, green, whatever you want. I'm going to keep mine on this purple because I like the way the ambient lighting looks at night. Okay, sweet. Well, let's take this thing for a drive, and we'll see what it's like on the road, and we'll commute it to downtown, see what it's like to live with this GLI. I've been craving bubble tea, and I haven't gotten it in months, so I think now is a good time, especially considering that the parking structure that we always end in is the parking structure for my favorite bubble tea place. So we're going to go and do that after the fact. You can see our reverse camera open up there. No 360 cam. And we also don't have guiding lines here that turn with you. They just kind of stay positioned, but helps you with depth when you're getting close to things. So that's nice. And I do always talk about how a lot of these new manual cars are very easy to drive at low speeds. This GLI is exceptionally easy. This would be a great first car for somebody, a good car for someone to learn on. It's been an absolute treat. Pretty lightweight steering too. I guess I didn't really talk about our drive modes. We can go through those in a second, but I am just in normal mode right now. You can dial it back a bit more actually to comfort, but I've found the balance setting of normal to be nice for daily driving. Of course, then you have a sport in an individual mode too that you can progress to. Please have grip, Kinergies. Okay. Give it about half throttle and you're doing just fine, but these tires, they do struggle for grip quite a bit, and they do also complain. They're very loud around hard corners. And as you saw back there, we suffer from just a little bit of rev hang. It's not as bad as previous Volkswagen models, and we've seen similar sort of things with the Mark 8 GTI and Mark 8R. They are easier to drive smoothly. One thing we are lacking here is an auto rev matching system. So rev matches have to be done by yourself, which some people will appreciate. Makes you work a little harder for that smoothness. And also, you can't really hear that 2-liter too much. In fact, this road surface is louder than the engine. But don't worry, if you want to have more engine noise, you can go into Sport, and that will project engine noise through the Beats audio system. Sometimes too loud to where it blows the speakers out, but it sounds like it's doing okay today. All right, let's take this corner here. I'm gonna go second. Those Kinergies complaining quite a bit. Luckily, you can defeat the traction control with a physical button to the right of the gear stick. What a concept, Volkswagen. Thank you so much for that. Let's shut it down from its sport settings, traction back on. We're gonna go into normal mode. And we'll see what this is like to sit in on the highway, because that is, of course, going to be about 95% of living with a car like this. And you got to kind of ask yourself if it's worth it to get GLI over a base Jetta. And I think for that extra 5% of time when you can do some spirited driving, it definitely is worth it. Okay. It's a triple. The tow truck, the tracks, and the edge behind me all just cut over to this lane. Folks, it's not hard to just be in the correct lane when you pull up to the light. I don't understand that. Okay. Spirited driving aside, what is it like to live with this car? Short answer, quite pleasant. I have very much enjoyed daily driving this for the past couple of days. Not only going around and screeching my tires places, which has been fun, but even just being comfortable in this car. This is probably the best seat as far as comfort goes among the competitors. The WRX TS I was just driving, that had a Recaro seat that was a little bit hard. It was somewhat supportive. Oh my gosh. Oh, I thought that was another GLI, but it's just a regular Jetta. But I think it's the same color as this. That's fun. But I think what Volkswagen does really well is they are able to offer a bit more of an upscale product in the segment. They kind of do like the Mazda thing. So, like, for example, this really nice heated leather steering wheel. The fact I have 3 memory settings on this seat, that is quite nice. And all of this has had, for a starting price of just under $33,000, this one has spec today just over 35 grand, because we have the black appearance package, which adds I think it's like $650 or something like that. But just sitting in this car, the adaptive dampers do a really good job. I'm actually going to stick this into comfort mode real quick and see if they soften out just a little bit more. Comfort mode for highway driving. Oh yes. We are floating now. Oh yeah. Ooh, that is very nice. Really nice lumbar adjustment on this seat. Man, so Emily and I just road tripped a Civic Si to Chicago. And the one thing I felt that I was missing was a lumbar adjustment on the driver's seat. Now, the lumbar on this doesn't adjust up and down, but it does go in and out a pretty good amount. Yeah, I'm happy with that. That feels really nice. Ooh, and since this is German, you can heat and ventilate at the same time. Be like Shaq. Even though I always brag about that and I never do it. Why don't we do it? We'll see what it's like to heat and ventilate at the same time. Okay, let's talk about cruise control, as we still have a bit of highway room left. We'll activate this. So we do have adaptive cruise in this car, and we have a lane keeping assist, travel assist as Volkswagen calls it. We'll go ahead and set this here. Why aren't you activating? Oh, set. Duh. Okay. Got to click the set button. Everything's haptic on the steering wheel, of course. This is very much genuinely like an icy hot experience here, because you have the heat of the seat, and then the ventilated part makes it so you don't stick to the seat. I could see that being beneficial, so you don't get all clammy and sweaty. Adaptive cruise slowing us down here. We can adjust our distance somehow, like this, by pressing the middle button. I usually keep mine at the closest setting, just because it still follows plenty far away. Heavy on the brakes. Let's deactivate that for a second. Let's see, torque in fourth gear. Sixth gear, 75 miles an hour, you're revved at about 2,500 RPM, which explains why this car is able to achieve 36 miles to the gallon. Though I feel like the Civic Si that we took to Chicago, I feel like that was revved more at like 3,000 RPM. That's a slightly smaller displacement engine though, so I don't know, science. All right, guys, let's jump off the highway and we'll do some city driving, and then we'll give you some final thoughts on the GLI. We'll see if we can do the bridge test, but this car is pretty quiet. It doesn't really make too much noise, which is pretty on brand for Volkswagen. The Mark 8, GTI, and R, they've gotten a little bit rowdier, but GLI kind of retains its reserved nature that it's always had. Some turbo noise is just about all you get here in this package. The exhaust doesn't really do too much, but you could put your own aftermarket exhaust on this car. Lots of cool like Army tricks, valved systems available for cars like this. As we slowly creep into the city center, let's go ahead and get a sound system test queued up for our Beats audio system. Alright, so I wanted to give you guys small snippets of two songs there, just to show you that this is probably the weakest sound system in the segment, between the Bose and the Elantra, the Harman Kardon and the Forte, the Bose and the Civic, what else? Even the Harman Kardon and the Subaru WRX. This is definitely the worst, and it's like an 8-speaker system, but number of speakers does not always necessarily determine the quality of the sound system. So yeah, it's really hollow, and it falls on its face hard when you have some detailed treble sections. It's really grainy, and it's just not a good system, and it's really disappointing because, like I said earlier, the overall high-end nature of this car, it should have a nice sound system, and it is confusing to me because the GTI and the R have a pretty decent Harman Kardon system. And I didn't realize how many differences there really were between the Jetta and the GTI until I realized the Jetta was a US-only car. And that made it make just a bit more sense, considering that there's two completely separate engineering teams and, you know, everything responsible for these two cars. The Jetta and Golf used to be a lot more similar back in the day. Like, I think back to Mark IV, Mark V, Mark VI, when the cars were pretty much just sedan and hatchback versions of each other. But there's a lot more differences now that we're in 2024, 2025 model year cars. But I think now that's a good thing, because the GTI and R have such, what's the word? Controversial infotainment system, climate control, things like that. We won't get into that because we're not in that car, and this one actually works just fine. But I really love that the Jetta exists in its own unique way now, and I think it kind of fills the void for the Volkswagen enthusiasts that are kind of disappointed with what Volkswagen came out with for the Mark 8 GTI and R. And the Jetta kind of keeps things original and true to the spirit of the older Volkswagen hot compacts and hot hatches and things like that, because this is how the evolution should have happened, in my opinion, even with the GTI. So the fact that we still have this is really, really nice. So that kind of brings me to the final thoughts, philosophical part over. What has this car been like just as a car? And it's one of my favorites in the segment for day-to-day use. Sure, it's not the most engaging to drive. It doesn't really make a lot of noise. The feel of the shifter and things, I mean, the shifter is precise enough, but it's a little bit gummy, it's a little light, and I love that we still have a manual in this car, and I don't really think it's a bad manual transmission, but it's not the most satisfying to drive in the world. Clutch feel, it's a light clutch, but it's got more heft than the Civic Si, for example. A bit more of a defined grab point here in the GLI for sure, which is part of what makes this so easy to drive and live with, is it's very predictable. And it's fun too, with that front limited slip. You can take it through some corners, and if it were me, I would probably ditch these hand-cooked tires because they are just honestly not very good. They're quiet-ish on the highway, but I mean, I would probably just go for like a set of Bridgestone Potenza Sport summer tires to stick on this, and then, you know, some sort of winter tire as well to complement your entire setup, and this would be just a really nice all-around daily driver. So you don't really have to sacrifice much as far as like being frustrated with working things inside this car. The back seat is big, the trunk is big. The only real letdowns here are the fact that it doesn't really make any noise and that the Beats sound system is kind of garbage. Being that this can be had for about 34 grand means it fits right in with things like the Civic Si, Elantra N, WRX, and it's definitely a worthwhile thought, because I feel like this is a car that a lot of people like don't remember even exists, because of course it doesn't have the global presence that the other cars do. Ooh, Miata. With some RPF ones. Cool. All right, guys. Well, hopefully that gives you a good idea of what it's like to commute, daily drive, live with, whatever, the new 2025 Volkswagen GLI. A worthy car in Volkswagen's lineup, and I really hope it sticks around. And I think it's funny that now out of all of their cars, the main enthusiast choice is the Jetta. So look how far we've come, and it's a really nice little package. Let's talk about steering weight as we wind up the structure here. We are in comfort mode still, and you lack a lot of feel on center with this car, but it does weight up as you give it some more steering angle. Ooh, nice red E46. Anyways, sorry. Overall, steering feel is light, and I think that's okay for daily driving. But in a performance setting, you don't really get a great idea. I mean, on center, you just really have no idea what's going on. So, like, to sum up my sum up, I think this is a very good medium hot compact that would suit you very well as a daily driver, and also kind of reserve your status as an enthusiast, because it is still an enthusiast car. It shows there's at least a small sliver of Volkswagen that still cares about enthusiasts. They care about the US market, and I love that cars like this exist. I love what they stand for, and hot compacts, hot hatches are always just my favorite. So anytime I can spend the week with one is a good week, and this has been no exception. So we'll park this up here, we'll give it one last look, and then I'd like to hear in the comments what you guys think about Volkswagen ditching the manual and everything, and also what you think about the GLI. I haven't driven one of these in a few years, so it was nice to kind of revise my memory. I think the last one I drove was a blue 2022 maybe, or a 23. 3? It's been a couple years. I know we had one. We had another manual one at some point. Okay, there we go. GLI is parked. We'll leave it in gear. Why not? Okay. Average fuel economy from that trip, plus from my house to the parking lot, 22.4, which, what is this rated at combined? Something around there. 30 combined, 26 city, 36 highway. And I don't think this requires premium fuel. Let's actually investigate that real quick. I haven't had to put fuel in this yet, so see what it says on the fuel door. Yeah, regular fuel. Yeah, okay, just takes 87. Sweet. So cheap to run as well. 36 miles to the gallon on the highway, takes regular. Overall, nice package. All right, guys, well, that's going to wrap it up for us today. I hope you enjoyed this little drive in the 2025 VW Jetta GLI. Again, let me know if you have any questions, but that'll wrap it up for us today, and we will see you in the next one. Take care. It kind of blends in with this cityscape, doesn't it? Like the floor blends right in. All right. See you guys.